Do I look like a freak to you?
No.
You know, you've always been real big on telling me that my face doesn't matter, but it does, doesn't it?
You think you know the story of Rocky Dennis, the boy whose courage inspired a movie and touched millions. But what if everything you believed about his life wasn't the whole truth? Before she passed away, Rocky's mom finally spoke out. What she revealed shocked the world. And it wasn't what anyone expected. You won't believe what she said. Stay with us, because the real story is far darker than the film ever showed. The boy behind the story. Rocky Dennis. Just the name evokes a story of courage, hope, and resilience. A boy whose life inspired the beloved movie Mask and touched the hearts of millions. But behind the headlines, behind the Hollywood portrayal, there was a boy whose life was far more complicated, far more human than most ever realized. Born with Treacher-Collins syndrome, Rocky faced a condition that distorted his face and caused numerous health challenges. From an early age, he was different, not in a way that made him extraordinary, but in a way that made him vulnerable to the world's judgment. Doctors predicted a short life, a life filled with struggle, but Rocky had a spirit that refused to be defined by limitations. Even as a child, he carried himself with a quiet strength that inspired those around him, though it wasn't always easy. His mother, Florence "Rusty" Dennis, was the anchor in his life. She fought tirelessly to give him the care, love, and protection he needed. The world saw her as a devoted mother, standing proudly beside her son, always supportive. But what no one knew was the weight of her fear, the sleepless nights worrying about his health, the constant pressure to shield him from cruelty, and the private grief she carried knowing how hard life had been for her boy. School wasn't easy for Rocky. While he was intelligent and kind, children can be cruel, and the teasing, bullying, and stares were constant reminders that his life would never be simple. Yet despite this, Rocky developed a love for music, humor, and friendship. He had an uncanny ability to connect with others, to make them laugh, and to see the world in a way that was bigger than himself. The public only ever saw Rocky as the inspirational figure on the screen. But in reality, his days were a delicate balance between bravery and fragility. Every smile was hard-won, every achievement a victory over a world that didn't always understand him. And through it all, his mother was there, fiercely protective, quietly loving, and always aware that her son's story was more complicated than any movie could show. As Rocky grew older, the challenges only intensified. Medical complications, social pressures, and the constant awareness that life could be cruel pressed on him. But in the shadows of his struggles, there was joy, laughter, and love. A reminder that even in the most difficult lives, humanity and courage shine the brightest. Rocky Dennis was more than a symbol of courage. He was a boy, living a life full of complexity, love, and unspoken pain. A story that his mother would later reveal in ways no one could have expected. The untold struggles. For everyone who admired Rocky Dennis from afar, the story seemed clear. A boy who faced a rare disease with courage and resilience, inspiring all who knew him. But behind the movie, behind the headlines, lay a reality that was far more complicated and, at times, heartbreaking. Rocky's life was filled with struggles that most people never saw, and the truth of his journey only came to light years later when his mother finally spoke out. Despite his intelligence and charm, Rocky faced a world that wasn't kind to difference. School was a battlefield. Children stared, whispered, and sometimes laughed at him. Even teachers struggled to understand how to accommodate his unique needs. Simple tasks that many take for granted, walking down the hallway, participating in class, or making friends, were daily reminders of how cruel the world could be. And though Rocky carried himself with dignity, the emotional toll was heavy. He often came home exhausted, not just from school, but from constantly defending himself against the stares and whispers that followed him wherever he went. Medical challenges shadowed every step of his life. Treacher-Collins syndrome affected not only his appearance, but his health in countless ways. He underwent multiple surgeries, faced chronic pain, and had to deal with breathing and hearing difficulties that made everyday life exhausting. Each procedure, each hospital visit, reminded him and his mother that life could be fragile, fleeting, and unforgiving. And while the doctors offered care, they could not offer the emotional support Rocky so desperately needed. That had to come from his family, who gave all they could, day after day. His mother, Rusty Dennis, bore a burden most could never imagine. She was a single parent navigating a system that didn't always understand or support children like Rocky. She spent countless nights awake, worrying about his health, his happiness, and the world's ability to accept him. She tried to shield him from the cruelty outside, but she couldn't always protect him. The emotional strain of raising a child with a rare disorder, along with her own personal struggles, created moments of despair, fear, and overwhelming responsibility. Rocky also faced isolation. While he had friends and supporters, many people couldn't see past his appearance. He longed for normalcy, for school dances, sports, and friendships that didn't revolve around pity or fascination. Behind the scenes, he grappled with sadness, moments of loneliness, and the awareness that life would never be simple. Yet, he carried on, masking much of his pain with humor, kindness, and resilience, refusing to let the world see how heavy the burden truly was. The truth, as Rusty revealed later in life, was that Rocky's challenges went far beyond what anyone had imagined. The movie painted a picture of triumph and inspiration, but it left out the fear, the exhaustion, and the emotional weight carried by both mother and son. It wasn't just a story of courage. It was a story of a family navigating constant adversity, learning to survive a world that wasn't built for them. And yet, even in the face of these struggles, Rocky's spirit remained. He loved, he laughed, and he lived as fully as he could. But the deeper reality, the hardships that were hidden from the public eye, would only be revealed years later, in his mother's final words, exposing a truth far more complex and, at times, heartbreaking than the world ever realized. Her final words, and the truth we can't ignore. Years after Rocky Dennis passed, the world thought they knew his story. A boy who defied the odds, inspiring millions with his courage. But before her death, Rusty Dennis, Rocky's mother, finally broke her silence. And what she revealed shocked those who had only seen the uplifting version of his life. Rusty admitted that raising Rocky was far more difficult than anyone could imagine. The constant medical appointments, surgeries, and hospital stays took a toll not just on Rocky, but on her as well. She spoke of nights spent awake, listening for signs of pain, and the overwhelming fear that her son's fragile body might not survive another day. Beyond the health struggles, she revealed the emotional weight Rocky carried, the isolation, the bullying, and the loneliness that no movie could capture. She also opened up about the moments Hollywood never showed, the fights with doctors, the heartache of seeing Rocky in pain, and the guilt she sometimes felt as a mother unable to shield him completely. Rusty confessed that the public narrative of triumph and inspiration had hidden the true cost, the relentless struggle behind every smile, every joke, every brave face her son wore for the world. Her words were raw, honest, and heartbreaking. Rusty didn't want sympathy, but she wanted the truth known, that Rocky's life, though remarkable, was not without suffering. She urged people to remember him not just as a symbol of courage, but as a child who experienced profound challenges, a boy who deserved love, understanding, and compassion. In her final reflections, Rusty Dennis made it clear that the real story of Rocky Dennis was far more complex than anyone had imagined. A mixture of bravery, struggle, joy, and pain. And while the world may never fully grasp every detail, her courage in speaking out ensures that the truth behind Rocky's life, both beautiful and tragic, will never be forgotten. Rocky Dennis's story isn't just about courage. It's about the hidden struggles, the sacrifices, and the love that often goes unseen. Thanks to his mother finally speaking out, we understand the full weight of his journey, both inspiring and heartbreaking. If this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives behind the headlines. And tell us in the comments, what part of Rocky's story touched you the most?